The concert hall in the Fine Arts Center on our campus, the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, bears the name of Roland Hayes. The early years of the African-American lyric tenor and composer were shaped in this city. Next week, Jackson Caesar, a tenor himself, will perform music of Hayes in a one-person show from the stage of that hall. The free concert, Spirituals, celebrating the music, life, and legacy of Roland Hayes, is on Monday, February 13th, starting at 7:30 p.m. I spoke with Jackson Caesar and Dr. Kenyon Wilson, Interim Department Head of Performing Arts here at UTC. The early years of the African-American lyric tenor and composer were shaped in this city. Next week, Jackson Caesar, a tenor himself, will perform the music of Hayes in a one-person show from the stage of that hall. The free concert, Spirituals, celebrating the music, life, and legacy of Roland Hayes, is on Monday, February 13th, starting at 7:30 p.m. I spoke with Jackson Caesar and Dr. Kenyon Wilson, Interim Department Head of Performing Arts here at UTC. Jackson, Kenyon, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Tell us more about how this concert came to be coming here to UTC.
One of my good friends, Dr. Roland Carter, Professor Emeritus here at UTC, introduced me to Jackson Caesar's work about 4 years ago. And the timing wasn't good because 4 years ago we were moving out of the Fine Arts Center, vacating space for several years for renovation. And so I had to sit patiently waiting for the Roland Hayes Concert Hall to open back up, which it did this past August, to be able to bring Jackson Caesar in to do his wonderful production about the life, the music of Roland Hayes. And the beauty of that is it will be performed in the Roland Hayes Concert Hall.
I came up with this idea back in 2010 to start touring, and I wanted to find locations that highlighted Roland Hayes, or that he was best known for, he had a good reputation for it, he received honorary doctorates, or where he lived. And Chattanooga was one of the locations. And I said, well, let's see if we can introduce this program to the Chattanooga community in observance of Roland Hayes and his great legacy.
Jackson, how did you first become aware of this musical giant?
I was taking voice lessons at the University of District of Columbia, and a good friend of mine who was teaching at Lincoln University at the time, he called me, and he's been following me. He's been a fan of my music and a great supporter. His name is Dr. William Garcia. And he said over the phone, he goes, there's a song I want you to learn. It's called Little Boy, and it's by Roland Hayes. And I was like, I don't know who that is, but sure, why not? So he mailed a copy of the songbook from Roland Hayes. It's called 30 of My Favorite Spirituals. And it's a songbook collection full of 30 arrangements from Roland Hayes, wonderful arrangements that I've never heard of before. He sent the book to me, and I presented it to my voice teacher, Nelda Ormond, at the time. And she says, oh, okay, that's fine. We can work on some songs out of this book. And she goes, you need to read up on him. So I took it upon myself to read up on Roland Hayes. And man, I was blown away with his life. I know it's usually the music that you would hear and be like, oh, his music is amazing. But I just read about his life, and I was like, how is it that I don't know, or we don't know much about this guy? And so that's when I decided to make my story. And I was like, I want to know more. And secondly, I had never experienced a book of spirituals other than Harry T. Burleigh. So I was excited to come across this book.
And Roland Hayes is a name that for many people outside of the world of music, of which you are both part, Roland Hayes, for various reasons, not a household name. Why is that?
My take on that is because when you think of those prolific names from the 1920s and 30s for African Americans, Marian Anderson, Paul Robeson, they were part of the, and I'm calling this mainstream music scene. Mainstream because they had all the popularity. So they were doing all of the operas and musical theaters and, you know, the mainstream music scene. And Roland was not part of that. And I feel like that's one of the reasons why he wasn't the household name, even though he had a wonderful, successful career in Europe and then returning back to the United States and then using that to launch his career further in the United States. And that's my take on why I feel like he's not a household name, because he wasn't part of the mainstream.
Kenyon Wilson, how do you see that?
I see it the same. Now, we're definitely trying to make Roland Hayes a household name here in the Chattanooga area. Certainly my students are familiar with that. We had the opportunity last year, before the hall was opened up, to have the author of Roland Hayes' biography to Zoom with the entire class and be able to let them understand the rich history that we have here in Chattanooga.
Yes, Christopher A. Brooks.
And this event coming up will be, as you alluded to, Kenyon, in the Roland Hayes Concert Hall at the Fine Arts Center here on the UTC campus.
Indeed, February 13th, Monday night, 7:30.
When we consider the history of Black History Month, looking at President Ford, he made it possible for it to become a month. But before it was a month, it was a week long, and the students at Kent University, they decided that it had to be celebrated between two significant people, Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. And so that's my first take on my concert series. I want to make sure that I'm honoring that. And so that's why I chose to be in between those 2 dates there. If it wasn't, it's okay, as long as it's close to, because of that significance. So I'm grateful that Chattanooga was able to get me in, to squeeze me in for that date, because it's quite significant for the observance of Black History Month.
And this will be your first visit to Chattanooga, as well as your first time on that stage.
Correct. I am super excited. It's just a homage that I feel like I'm paying to Roland. And surprisingly, I spoke to his daughter yesterday, just sharing the news, and I was like, where did he live exactly? Because out of all of the material that I've read, all of the resources that I have on Roland Hayes, I know that he started out in Calhoun, Georgia. Then when his father passed away, they moved up north to Chattanooga. And then he went to Fisk from there. And then after he toured for a while, he ended up in Boston for the remainder of his life. I said, but where did he live? Because I would love to like swing by the grounds or something. She said, I don't know. I guess, well, she's only concerned about, being dropped off in Boston, I guess. But, she was like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, I was really looking forward to finding it out, but that's okay. At least there's a homage paid to him from Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I'm excited to be on that stage and to pay that tribute.
Kenyon, this is shaping up to be yet another memorable moment on that stage when Jackson is here.
Indeed it is. We've had quite a year of moments, starting off with hosting Ukrainian Ballet Eve. We've had Hip Hop Festival. We've had movies premiered here, and we're certainly looking forward to adding to just a banner year here at the Roland Hayes Concert Hall.
Looking forward to it. Jackson Caesar, Kenyon Wilson, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
My pleasure.